Good morning, and thank you all for joining our third annual Nob Hill Gazette Real Estate Roundtable. My name is Carly Schwartz, and I'm the editor-in-chief of the San Francisco Examiner and the Nob Hill Gazette. Real estate has always been one of the region's hottest topics, and we have an exciting morning planned for you. We'll be chatting with local experts about everything from the impact of rising interest rates to the increasing popularity of second homes and so much more. Before we check in with our panel, allow me to introduce you to this year's host, Janet Reilly, founder and president of Clinic by the Bay, co-owner of Bay Scholars with her husband, Clint Reilly, and the co-owner of our publications.
Well, Carly, thank you so much. And thank you to all of our viewers who have tuned in today to join us for our third annual Nob Hill Gazette Real Estate Virtual Roundtable. I am Janet Reilly, and I am thrilled to be here with this star-studded panel this morning to talk about, of course, one of the most talked about subjects in the Bay Area, real estate. What's the current state of the market? What are the impacts of rising interest rates? As the pandemic wanes, are second homes still in high demand? And what does the future hold? These are just a few of the subjects we're going to touch upon in the next hour. And of course, we will leave time at the end for our audience members to ask their own questions. So we'll do about 40 minutes of Q&A with the panel and then open it up for your questions. And if you do have questions, please submit them in the chat function, and we'll try to get as many of those as possible. And so as we begin, let me introduce today's panelists. From Sotheby's International Realty, Barbara Callan has sold nearly $3 billion worth of real estate since 1986 and has repeatedly been ranked #1 realtor in San Francisco. Barbara is a fourth-generation San Franciscan and credits her success to her high level of service and knowledge of the marketplace. Welcome, Barbara.
Thank you.
Joel Goodrich hails from Coldwell Banker Global Luxury. He has been one of San Francisco's premium luxury real estate agents for the last 25 years, with more than $1.2 billion in sales. Joel has listed some of the most expensive homes in America, including the historic 35,000 square foot Tobin Clark Estate in Hillsborough. That's a lot of house, and is frequently interviewed for national news publications and television programs. Joel has been the #1 agent for the Coldwell Banker Global Luxury Pacific Heights office for 5 of the last 7 years. And we welcome you, Joel. DJ Grubb is the president of the Grubb Company, which was founded by his father and his uncle in 1967. DJ has 35 years of experience in the field and specializes in high-end East Bay residential properties. For all these years, the Grubb Company has remained a forward-thinking and an independent real estate brokerage firm. Welcome, DJ.
Good morning, everybody.
Greg Lynn from Sotheby's International Realty has been ranked as the #1 agent in the city by the San Francisco Association of Realtors and one of the top 50 agents in the country by the Wall Street Journal. With transactions totaling more than $2 billion, Greg's career highlights include the sale of the St. Regis penthouse and the penthouse at 1080 Chestnut, which achieved a record high sale price for an apartment on Russian Hill. Congratulations and welcome, Greg.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Pollyanna Snyder is with Engel & Volkers and has been a real estate professional since 1999, practicing in California, North Carolina, Colorado, and Montana, the state she has called home for the past several years and where she is right now. Whether helping a family find a new home or a secondary residence, or representing the community needs of a developer, Pollyanna's motto, give me 1% of your confidence and I'll earn the other 99%. I kind of love that. Welcome, Pollyanna.
Greetings and thanks for having me in from Montana today. It is a beautiful day in Bozeman.
Great. And finally, we have with us Helena Zaladova from Compass. Helena has been ranked as one of San Francisco's top 10 agents and one of the top 150 nationwide by the Wall Street Journal. Helena is nearing $1 billion in career sales and is known for being a master strategist with a laser focus on San Francisco's 49 square miles. Welcome, Helena, and welcome again to all of our panelists. It's so great to have you here. So let me begin with the question that I'm going to pose to each of you and ask you to answer in 60 seconds or less if this is possible. Just give me a snapshot of the current state of the Bay Area residential market today. And Barbara, I'm going to begin with you.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to talk about San Francisco. And it's a very, very strong market in San Francisco. Very low inventory, high buyer demand. We're still receiving multiple offers on properties and properties that are priced at market. We still see multiple offers and they're going well over market value. And one is an example of 2 properties we just closed. So we're still receiving multiple offers, seller's market.
Joel, what do you see?
The San Francisco market is extraordinarily strong considering what's going on in the world, both internationally and all the economic cross currents. The Pacific Heights market in San Francisco is one of the core luxury markets in the world. And whenever the markets go down, it's probably the last to be hit, if at all, and the first to recover. So we're seeing very strong sales this year. The venture capital money that has flowed into San Francisco is really keeping our market strong. Last year, San Francisco companies alone got $61 billion in venture capital funds. The next highest city in the world was, I think, Palo Alto or Boston with $8 billion. So we got more than the entire states of Texas and Florida combined. And so that money flowing in is keeping our local economy extremely strong.
Incredible. DJ, what about you?
We're extremely busy over here in the East Bay. The big issue is inventory for everybody. California Association of Realtors predicted that appreciation this year would be 5% annually. We're seeing north of 16% today. That means fewer buyers can afford, and the market is still raging. Also, we've got a lockup of inventory. It's very difficult to find a home today in the East Bay. Very.
What are you seeing?
I agree with all the panelists, and there is a tremendous inventory challenge of single-family homes, but not so of high-end condominiums. There are no condominiums on the market after under 5 million. Barbara and Joel will just tell you about the deal that they did in ours. But once we start seeing condominiums priced above 10 million, there is historic inventory on the market that's presenting buyer opportunities that do not exist in the single family home marketplace.
It's good to know. Pollyanna, what's happening in Montana?
Well, I have the illustrious benefit I represent 3 markets that are all within 25 to 45 miles of each other. And that would be Bozeman, that would be Livingston, where the story of Yellowstone takes place, and then that would be Big Sky. So 3 very distinct markets, all facing the same issues, as you said, Greg, historically low inventory. To date, let me give you a little relativity. The town of the state of Montana, our population is just over 1 million people. We have in our entire state 1/10 the population of the island of Manhattan, New York. So, and our demand is just exceptional. We have less than a month's worth of inventory on the market in all 3 of those places, those towns. We've already closed over $1.3 billion just for the months of January and February. And we have closed more properties over $1 million in January and February alone than we did all of last year.
Because, and we're going to talk a little bit later about second homes. So curious to know how many of those are second homes that you're seeing. But
well, and as I mentioned just a moment ago, my largest market coming to Montana is the Bay Area.
Wow. Interesting. Helena, what are you seeing?
I am seeing a heightened sense of urgency, which is resulting in more homes going under contract in the record times. So it's the number of days on market that's changed tremendously. It's under 10 days in single family homes. Sometimes it's even under a week. I see a really high premium being put on properties that are modern and turnkey, and I see fewer developers in the market.
Interesting. So next question: what kind of buyers are you seeing? Are they different buyers than they were a year ago? And let me direct this question first to Greg, and then DJ and Helena. Greg, what are you seeing?
Sure, there's a lot of buyers in our marketplace, more buyers than inventory, but the type of buyers did change. We now have move-up buyers. COVID changed the way that we live and where we live. So some families decided to double down on San Francisco. They just needed more space. So they're looking for larger homes, larger condos, but those are our move-up buyers. We also have buyers that found, or families that found homes elsewhere, and they're moving down to San Francisco. They're remaining in San Francisco, but they want to decrease their footprint and they're moving to a smaller house or a smaller condo. But as Joel suggested, let's not forget that if the Bay Area were a country, we would be the world's 8th largest economy. And as a result, we have a lot of great jobs here in tech and finance and all the other supporting industries. So we're still seeing families moving to the Bay Area. And they're frustrated with our level of inventory, but they're coming from great cities like New York and Chicago. Next, we are so excited that the downtown office buildings are going to be full again. We know that the mayor has worked hard with the CEOs of the companies, and we're expecting a whole nother wave of people that are coming back to San Francisco that are going to be looking for housing, mostly downtown. That's been missing for 2 years. We're looking forward to that. But finally, and this is where I get very excited, we are seeing the return of the pied-à-terre buyer. The 60 plus used to live in San Francisco or always wanted to live in San Francisco, empty nesters wanting a place in San Francisco, and they're starting to return because they've been hiding under sofas and sheltering for the last 2 years. So that's a little bit of the same and a little bit of new, and it's really mixing up our market.
Wow. DJ, what about you?
Well, I think the big change here today is that the luxury buyer does not feel in control of the process. A healthy checkbook does not buy a house today. That's a very unusual dynamic in the market. So what that's equated to is that buyers are overreaching. We had the aha moment where we hear a buyer would pay $1 million over the asking price. That's not an aha moment anymore. That's a buyer who is buying future value and betting on future appreciation. So the market is very dynamic. It's very interesting. And I think this luxury buyer today has a very different process they have to go through in a multiple presentation. It's not just checkbook driven anymore. It's very, very, very dynamic.
During the pandemic, many buyers and renters for that matter were looking for homes with a lot of square footage, more outdoor space, indoor offices. And so as we do begin to shed our masks, and a number of you have mentioned, go back to our offices, what are today's buyers looking for in a home? Is that different than it was a year or two ago? And let me start with Barbara, and then I'll go to Joel and Pollyanna. So Barbara, what do you think?
Well, it's interesting. The way we sold homes during COVID has sort of become a way of life for many buyers now. It really has. I mean, we still have buyers, even though the offices are opening and people are going back to work. We find many people are maybe going back to work 2 days a week or 3 days a week. So they still want their home office. People have sort of become addicted to Zoom. I mean, look at us right now. We're not with you in your office. We decided to do Zoom. Right. We didn't have to. So a lot of people are doing Zoom. They're doing Zoom for social, for business. So they're still looking for that Zoom room. Maybe not as many. They don't need it for all their kids, but they are looking for an office, a Zoom room. Gym, even though they're going to the gym now, they still want a spot to put their Peloton. So I don't think the square footage of the house or the needs have really changed that much. Although what I do see is many buyers are much more flexible as far as location. And a lot of agents find this frustrating because they're not just open, say, I just want Pacific Heights. They'll say, well, maybe I will look in the Richmond, or maybe I will look in Seacliff, or some of them I bought a very high end in St. Francis Wood or in Noe Valley. So the buyers are much more flexible as far as location, but I think they still want the space, and the outdoor area is important. They're doing a lot of at-home entertaining. So outdoor space, walkout yard, those things are still very important. So for us personally, Robert and I, we haven't seen that much of a change as far as square footage or buyers' needs.
Joel, what are your buyers looking for?
Well, it's interesting because what we're finding is starting to see the international buyers come back. Currently, we have buyers from India, South Korea, Vietnam. We had a large European buyer. We just had some buyers from New York close on a large property. So we're starting to see that come back. And for the international buyers, I think the U.S. is still considered a relatively safe haven. A lot of these buyers need to be here for business. We are the tech capital of the world. And we find other buyers who are buying here because of their children's education. They may be going to Stanford or Berkeley or one of our other major educational institutions. So people do need to be here for business. We're not as much of a playground as we used to be for the international buyers. 20 years ago, we'd see more Russian, Middle Eastern buyers, but not really so much. They tend to buy more in Beverly Hills or other playgrounds. But we're a huge business destination for the national and international buyers. They look at it at us again as a relatively safe haven and a very solid asset going into the future.
Yeah. Pollyanna, what are your buyers looking for?
Well, my buyers are your sellers. And thank you for that. Obviously, I'm in a very different geographical area with very different geographical amenities and resources. We have a lot of open space. We're only fourth in size to Alaska, California, and Texas, with barely over 1 million people. So open space is our luxury. Yeah. So we're also seeing buyers here want a very efficient use of space. It's not bigger is better. It's a more efficient use of space. Yes, including the office, maybe only 3 bedrooms, 4 at the most, but it needs to have an office and space, being some land. And maybe that's an acre, which I know for y'all is very large. For us, that's kind of a little bit more of the norm. So an acre to 20 acres, maybe 40 acres is very common and desirable. I always say that Mother Nature does not make a great business partner. And so when y'all are coming here and everyone says, well, I want land and I want space, my first question is, what is that land going to do for you? What do you want it to do for you? Because again, Mother Nature is not a great business partner and you need to have a plan for that land. We are seeing a lot more mixed use properties come in a town like Bozeman. We would be the more traditional residential community. I always say we have Costco and Target. I hate to use those examples, but we have Montana State University here in Bozeman as well. And we have the busiest airport in the state. So with our proximity to Big Sky, you can go out today, and for a town our size, I was at the airport the other day, there were over 50 Learjets sitting out there, which is unusual for us. So it's efficient use of space. It is having that office. It's having some land and being able to recreate. And we have great public schools, both at the university level and the primary level. So that is a very, very big interest of your seller coming to this market.
But let me ask this next question. I'll start with Greg, Helen, and Joel. Let's talk about the current inventory, and a lot of you have touched on this, and the dilemma that this is creating for want-to-be home buyers. In San Francisco, new listings for single-family homes are down almost 33% from a year ago. And I know that varies depending on what portion of the market you're talking about. But what are the reasons for low inventory? We know some of the obvious ones. But do you see this changing as we head into the spring and into the fall? And so, Greg, what do you think?
I do think it's going to change, and that's a very good question. And, we've always had supply constraint issues in San Francisco. It's just particularly exacerbated now because of all the trends. But people have long asked the question, why is there such low inventory in San Francisco? And I always say, well, it's the same reason everyone wants to know why Paris Hilton is famous. She's famous. She's famous because she's famous. It's a self-repeating process. So similarly, right now, if you own a $3.5 million house and you want to grow into a $6.5 million house, that house is not available. So your $3.5 million house that should be on the market right now is not. It's waiting on a runway and it's just not happening. It's a self-repeating process times 1,000. It's very frustrating to us, as listing agents. But this also dispels a myth that we've been hearing for years that's been perpetuated by people slamming the door like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel is they, benefit from the Bay Area and now are leaving it to go to other places, that everybody is leaving San Francisco. If this were true, we'd be flooded with listings, but we're not. So it's not. I do believe that this is cyclical. We're having discussions right now, on my team about listings that we're going to be having, in the fall that weren't ready for the spring. And I do believe that after our summer refresh, we're going to see a much richer inventory environment in San Francisco.
Great. Helena, what do you think?
I think that the inventory is low, but it feels especially low because we've had about 5 years of moves that were accelerated into 2 years of 2020 and 21. And we're now back into a more normal rhythm. And what I mean by that is that people who were planning to move out of the city in the next 5 years made the decision when the pandemic hit. So there was a lot of movement, and now we're back to a more normal, balanced market, which just feels and is incredibly tight. I also feel that in more of a macro view, sellers sell, I call it the 4Ds, the downsizing, which is limited, death, divorce, and development, which is also now become very limited. So those 4Ds, plus, somebody making a move to closer to their family or for work, those are the inflection points for somebody to that the largest generation has entered the market, the millennials. They're finally buying homes. They're here in, money in their pocket, good jobs. They've been renting. Now they're in the marketplace, and boomers are not selling. They're not downsizing. They don't they're buying second homes. So it's kind of this perfect storm. So that's my view of what I think is going on. In addition to our normal San Francisco dynamics, because this is playing out not just here, this is now a nationwide problem.
Yeah. Joel, what are you seeing? What do you think about low inventory? And I'm sure you did see this morning, just to talk about a report that came out this morning saying that San Francisco did in fact have the second largest exodus of people leaving major metropolitan cities. So, because you wonder, is the exodus real? And again, I think it was at 6.5%, still lots of people looking for houses, but I thought an interesting report. But Joel, what are you seeing?
Well, 2020, the year that the pandemic started, was a fascinating year. At one point, we had 31 listings.
Yeah.
Normally, like right now, we have 15. And let's say a particular submarket, Russian Hill condos, 2 to 6 million. Normally, you'd see 3 to 5 available. At one point during the pandemic, there were 30. So there was a big exodus. At one point in time, I had clients moving around the world, from Switzerland to Newport, Rhode Island, to Palm Beach, to Connecticut, to Tahoe, to Montana. I've never seen anything like it in 30 years. People have stopped moving out of San Francisco, and we're back to our normal market where we're in very high demand, not only because we are the tech capital of the world, but we do have world-class symphony, opera, ballet, which is now open again. In fact, the San Francisco Ballet Gala was last night. It was a beautiful event. We have world-class shopping, dining, and theater. We have sports arenas. We have concert venues, and some of the most beautiful parks and beaches in the world. So we're back in demand, still the magical city by the bay, and people are coming back.
It really is, and often you hear about the problems in San Francisco, and undoubtedly they're real. But just look out, all of your windows. It's one of the most spectacular cities with some of the greatest cultural institutions in the world. So I believe we're here to stay.
Absolutely.
A big trend that emerged over the last 2 years was the popularity, of course, of second homes to ride out lockdown in destinations like Tahoe, Hawaii, of course, Montana. And even closer to home destinations like Napa and Sonoma and Carmel. Where is the demand for second homes today? And Pollyanna in Montana, we'll begin with you. And then we'll go to DJ and Barbara.
Well, looking at our 3 markets between Livingston, Bozeman, and Big Sky, because you really have to lump them all 3 together, though they could not be more different.
Right.
The majority of the homes in Big Sky were second homes.
Okay.
And when the pandemic hit, the normal end of our ski season would be the end of March, beginning of April. Remember, that's when the pandemic hit.
Right.
All of a sudden, Big Sky was lit up like a Christmas tree for the months of April until the end of 2020. And a lot of those second homeowners moved to Big Sky or moved to Bozeman or moved to Livingston just to ride out the pandemic. A vast majority of them have stayed and have not left. They still have their San Francisco homes or they're Northern California or Southern California homes, they haven't left living here in the masses that we saw that moved here. It really became more of a primary residential community. The enrollment in school increased, the businesses that opened. We did not have the shutdown that you did. We were maybe shut down for 2 weeks, and that was it. So they came in droves. I mean, we were very busy during that time, and we still are.
Yeah. DJ, what about you? People looking to buy second homes?
Well, it's interesting. I think we've transitioned into a two primary home marketplace. When I talk to my friends and clientele, effectively they have a home in Inverness, Carmel, or Napa, but they also have maintained their home in town here. So they're literally living in two different homes. And we laugh about it because I say, where's your toothbrush today? Well, okay, it's over there or it's over there. And so that's kind of a dynamic that when I talk to our clientele, we deal with. But I think the conversation is this: the baby boomer world created so much equity in their homes. They had the ability during COVID to move to a second home, and they unlocked their equity and they bought the second home in both Boise, Montana, or wherever they went. So I think it's a product of economics, the ability to move, and the fact that, you know what, I'm going to work from home now and I'm going to transition into a different lifestyle. COVID accelerated that dramatically. That's all that's happened here. And I don't think that's ever going to change. So a lot of my friends own two homes, two toothbrushes. Here we go.
And loving it, I'm sure.
I know, right?
Right. Barbara, what about you? Clients looking for second homes?
Well, we have several very high-end clients looking for second homes in the city. And to Greg's mention of pied-à-terres, we have people living outside the city want their second home in the city. And these are not, we do, when we have people who are selling in the city, but they want to keep an apartment or something in the city, they don't want to leave it completely. So we see that. But the second home market, quote, in the areas you talk about are not really my specialty. So I reached out to one of the top realtors in Santa Elena to ask her what's going on with second homes there. And she said it's very slow. There are very few, if any, second home buyers right now in the Santa Elena area. She said Silverado, the Napa area, there's a pickup there, but it's very slow as far as second home buyers in that area.
Interesting. That is not what I would have expected.
No, me too. I was very surprised. I was very surprised because we have had clients who have purchased a home in Santa Elena, and we have had clients who purchased in Napa. But she said, no, it's not a popular trend right now. It's really changed. So hopefully, I think it'll come back. It will definitely come back because everyone wants to have a place up there. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Let me direct this question to Greg, Helena, and DJ. With interest rates beginning to go back up, partially to counter inflation, of course, how will that affect the market? So, Greg?
Sure. Well, that's very important because if you are a buyer who has a 50, 60, 70, or 80% loan, with the dramatic rate increases that are happening right now, you have just lost 20 to 30% of your purchase power.
Yeah.
So if you were looking, at a $5 million property, you now are looking at a $3.5 to $4 million property to begin with. So you've lost a lot of your ability. The cash market is not as affected, except psychologically. At some point, cash buyers are going to really learn that they've lost their competition, or the competition, is less than it was, and they're going to negotiate more effectively. So we've known for some time, pricing for properties now has built into the interest rate, but still that's no match for sellers in this environment in a historically constrained inventory environment. It's just very, very tough for buyers.
Helena, what impact do you think inflation and the rising interest rates is going to have on your clients?
It's the urgency in the market right now to get in before the rates get out of control. It affects the lower end of the market more sharply than the luxury. I agree with Greg that cash offers are I don't see as many of those, and I think cash offers will be able to use their buyers with cash will be able to use their that advantage. But I will reiterate that even with rates in the 4s and a 5% range, that is a big change. They're still historically very, very low. Real estate has held its value and traded in environments that saw rates in the 8s and 10s and 16% range. So I don't think we're anywhere near that just yet.
Just yet. DJ, what about
Well,
you?
this is an interesting conversation. So you've got to look at residential real estate today as an asset class. There's no other asset class where you can get a 30-year fixed mortgage under 5%. Just think about the reality of that. You buy a commercial building, you get a 3 to 5 year loan, you go in the stock market, blah, 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 right? So I don't agree. I think that money is still very inexpensive. I think the threshold of pain might hit this real estate market at 5 to 7%, but today money is still very inexpensive, and the access to the 30-year mortgage is brilliant. So 38% of our sales are all cash anyway, and that is even getting stronger because there's so much cash in the Bay Area market. So I kind of agree and I kind of disagree. I just don't think we're there yet. I don't think there's a panic over interest rates. I think that there's an advantage of interest rates today, and they are still very historically low. Absolutely, without question.
And may I say something? I agree with you. And it's almost laughable. The interest rates are so low. When I started in the business, 16, 18% was the norm.
Exactly.
The money right now is so cheap, and people are so used to rock bottom interest rates. It goes up a little bit, they're in a panic. And really, right. I do agree with you.
I'm going to make a little comment here, if you don't mind. This is why we have no inventory, because everybody locked in a 3 to 3.5% loan, whether it be a refinance or a purchase money. And why would you ever move? If you've got 30-year financing at 3.5%, you're not moving today. That's what's locked up our inventory. That's why nothing's coming on the market, and that's why we're stagnant. That's the key. Okay.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Yes.
Yep.
I see a whole lot of nodding heads. It's all relative, right?
It's all about the cost of money and the 30-year mortgage.
Yes.
Right. Let me direct this question to Barbara, Joel, and Pollyanna. Last weekend, I don't know if you saw it in 60 Minutes, they featured a story about big real estate investment firms buying up homes, offering all cash before they even hit the market, leaving regular home buyers in the dust, unable to compete. Do you see this kind of thing happening in the Bay Area, or is this, do you think, just happening elsewhere?
Well, I saw the show. Yeah. I thought it was very interesting.
It was. It really was.
It was also very relevant as to how it applies to San Francisco or even the Bay Area.
Yeah.
It was kind of hysterical. The homes were selling for tract homes, and they're in my great cities, and they are selling for $300,000 and around $200 a square foot. Now, this is never going to be a problem in San Francisco, certainly, and I can't see it happening anywhere in the Bay Area, where we have small 600 square foot, 1-bedroom condominiums without a view selling for $1,500 or $1,600 a square foot. So it was very interesting to see what's happening in these cities, but it doesn't relate to the Bay Area at all. Yeah, but it was fun to watch.
It was, maybe more of a suburban or a small market, in other parts of the area.
Yeah.
In other parts of the country, excuse me.
Yeah. Yes.
And Joel.
Zero effect in San Francisco. I mean, we're not seeing any of that.
I don't think we could even buy a garage for that price, garage space. Actually,
right?
we did sell a garage space once for just under $300,000 just for a garage. So I don't think we have.
Although I do remember in 1992, the year that I started real estate, I did buy a 1-bedroom co-op for $90,000.
Oh, okay. Well,
there you go.
Right? That was 1992. But and as was reported about 3 or 4 months ago, Zillow had to shut down its home buying program because it was costing them so much money. I don't think in the long run these are winning propositions because the real estate market is subject to fluctuation. valuations. Values are not always set in stone, as we see with some of these valuations on the consumer sites. They're sometimes close, other times they're very far off. So, as has been widely reported. So I think that automated home buying can work in certain markets, but not in a luxury market like San Francisco.
Yeah, no, it was heartbreaking. And really, the report talked about that first-time home buyers in these areas were really just shut out. It was, but yes, very much centered, I think, in other parts of the country. Maybe Pollyanna is going to see some of this.
And I am. So we used to be a millionaire's playground, and we're now a billionaire's playground. And your billionaires are coming here and gobbling up as much land as they possibly can. I'm not saying they're building it for the first-time home buyer. I mean, here in Bozeman, our average sales price is around $650, which you compare that to the rest of the country, put San Francisco aside. You compare that to the rest of the country, that's a very high, average price point for a home. But they are buying up land, they are putting in developments, they're putting in quite a few very luxury, high-end resort communities throughout this southwestern part of the state. But yes, your billionaires are coming in and buying up a lot of our land.
We definitely hear that, and I know I have not been to Montana, but do understand that it's quite beautiful. So I'm going to finish with this question. I'm going to direct this question to each of you. In reading your bios and about you, and I know a number of you, you really are the top realtors in the country. You are the best of the best. So just something, to tell about yourself. What is it that it takes to be a great realtor? There could be some aspiring realtors out there listening to this. I'm sure that there are. What do you think it takes to be as good as you all are? I'm just going to go through my screen. DJ, what do you think?
Well, I was thinking about this last night. So I thought, okay, always be engaged, right? Live a very disciplined life. I live an extremely disciplined life, and get to bed early. Seriously, just get to bed early and get up and go again.
Good night's sleep.
Get a good night's sleep. That's what it takes.
Sleep cures all.
Yes,
it cures all. But it takes a very disciplined, engaged life to be in this industry, and that's the type of person you have to be. It's a 24/7 for me, and I've enjoyed it for a long, long time, and I will continue to. But that's really what it is. But get to bed early. That's my message.
Joel, what about you? I know you don't get to bed early all the time, Joel.
I try. I do believe in DJ's advice. But I think, one of the oldest real estate sayings in the book is, they'll never care how much you know till they know how much you care. So you have to have a passion for your clients, for your properties. You really have to be passionate about representing them. And then to back that up, you need the substance. You need the marketing. You need the expertise to guide them through what is sometimes a very complex process. So I think you really have to care about your clients and just have a passion for it. The best bit of advice, and the only bit of advice I got when I started the business in 1992, was make a business plan. So in 1992, I had a 2-page business plan. Every year my business plan would grow. So by the year 2000, it was like 35 pages long. And every year my business would literally double. So I thought, wow, there's a real correlation here. So I used to get asked to speak about business planning at the Chamber of Commerce, various sales meetings, etc. So I would say do a business plan. And what's so fascinating about the business is agents succeed in very different ways. I decided early on I was going to make it through networking. I call it dining for dollars. Much better than dialing for dollars. I'd rather be over a hot meal than a cold phone. But I just really enjoy the people that you meet through our business, the properties that you represent. It's really a lifestyle. So like DJ said, it is your life. I consider, my career is like my partner, and my listings are like my babies. So you just really have to have a passion for it.
Wow, that's great. Pollyanna, what about you?
I think really capitalizing on what DJ and Joel said, because I agree with everything. Have that business plan, have your goals set out, set your goals every year, being very disciplined. We are known for being a non-disciplined industry. And if you look at I'd say the majority of key successful individuals in this industry, and I've been able to have businesses in 4 states, is being disciplined. I always tell folks we're meeting people at a crossroads. Never have I had someone walk in and just say, I have a boatload of time and money, let's go buy real estate. They're getting married, they're getting divorced, upsizing, downsizing, births, deaths, etc. And so we're meeting them at that crossroads of high emotion and high finance. And so we have to be keen listeners. And I think as DJ said, we have to have a very competent set of professional skills.
And you hone those skills over the years, right? There's nothing like experience. And how many of you have had mentors in the business? That's really important too. Yeah. Barbara, go ahead.
Okay. Did you call me?
Yes. Sorry. That's
okay.
Yes, please.
It's so interesting when you ask this question, because I've been asked this question before.
Sure.
And really, the first time I asked it was when I went to Orlando, Florida to accept the Wall Street Journal Award for the #1 agent, which was exciting. And they asked at that time to put together an acronym of what makes a successful agent. And so I did that. And then I just stuck it in my desk drawer. And every once in a while, like every 5 years or so, I'll look at it, and it hasn't changed much. And although I did add one thing, but I'll go through this very quickly because I don't want to bore all of you, but it's very consistent with what I'm hearing from all of you, which is interesting, of what I wrote. And in this acronym, I'm just giving you one sentence. Underneath it, they did ask for several paragraphs to describe it, but I'm not doing that. But the acronym was please, and passion and be present. L, be a good listener. That's really important. E is experience and knowledge. A is a positive attitude. S is service and sincerity. Now, some agents don't realize that we are this group does, but some agents don't realize that we are in a service-orientated business. This is all about taking good care of our client, without a doubt. You take good care of the client. And E is enjoy what you do. Enthusiasm is contagious. And then I just added a little K at the end of it because it didn't fit in with their acronym. And that was K for kindness. We always have to understand and be patient with our clients, because buying or selling can be very emotional for everyone.
Sure.
And then the one I added on years ago was one thing, and certainly it's evident in this meeting we're having, is networking and relationship with fellow brokers is extremely important. Just like Joel and I just did a transaction together, and we know each other, we know how we work. And I think it's a very, very strong community, especially with the top agents. And I think this is very, very important, networking with the brokerage community. It helps our clients, and it makes our jobs very enjoyable.
That's great. Well, you seem to have a good time together. I'm sure it's very competitive, but there's a lot of collaboration, I can tell too.
It is, and it is competitive, but
sure.
But we are supportive of each other. Yes.
Nice.
And I've mentored a lot of new agents, and I always tell them that's very, very important. And sorry.
And kindness goes a long way, as we all know. Greg, how about you?
Sure. I think a great agent makes their clients feel like they're the only client they have ever had, or ever will have. When you achieve that, clients believe you and will take your advice and will refer you. So that's a very important part of our business that I learned from my mentor, Jay Morton, if everybody remembers.
Yes.
But also in regards to other agents, Barbara touched on this for clients, but I always remember other advice that I received, that we are in a service business and all we have is our reputation.
Yeah.
Once you ruin yours, you cannot recover. So treat agents like you want to be treated. And those are my feelings about what makes a great agent.
That's great. Helena, we'll finish this question with you.
What a pleasure. I wholeheartedly agree with all of my colleagues. And to build on that, I think in addition to all those things, I think a great agent is an integrated problem. We solve 100 little problems for clients every day. And knowing where to reach and who to reach and how to reach them is an important skill. And in addition to building wonderful relationship with our clients and with other agents, I also think the ability to build great relationships with our vendors, the people who allow our process to flow so smoothly is just as important. And I think dedication to knowing the market, I think is what our value is to our clients. Knowing what property sold for before they close, knowing how many offers they got, touring religiously, actually knowing the market, every property inside and out for many, many years over and over is what our value to our clients is as agents, in addition to all the wonderful things that my colleagues just mentioned.
It's great. Well, you all are the best of the best. And so I think that's the best advice. And really, it sounds like advice to be successful in any profession, really, not just being a luxury agent, for sure. So I want to thank you for those incredible answers and discussions. And I'm going to move on to the audience questions. So the first one is, and please, anybody feel free to chime in the luxury market of $3 million plus in San Francisco, what has the demographic of that buyer been in the last year?
Well, I think it's our usual mix of suspects. We see a lot of tech and finance buyers, but we're also at this point in time seeing the hugest transfer of wealth in history. So the children are buying. So we have that new demographic is buying, and a lot of young people we're seeing more successful young people than ever before because of the tech and related industries. So basically tech, finance, and the inherited wealth at this point.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I think 3.5 is the new 2.5. It sounds flippant, but it's true. And that is the category of the trade up home from a condo. Yeah. That, hopefully has the office, has the yard, and has that extra bedroom.
Yeah.
So whoever the buyer for that house is, it's either that or 3.5 will get you into the North End at the larger condo size. So again, kind of a trade up buyer or a larger pied a terre.
Yes, when it's available and not sold in 10 days with 6 offers.
Exactly. Exactly. On.
So do you think next year we're going to be sitting here and the 4 million is the new 3.5? Is that these prices? It seems like there has to be a ceiling at some point, but I don't know. I just think we're not seeing it.
We're not seeing.
You just have to remember we're
Janet,
an international city, and everyone wants to live here, and they'll pay to live here. We have the best weather, the best city. Why? We have clients who moved to Texas, and one who moved to Florida, and now they're moving back. And one of them said, "What was I thinking? What was I thinking?" We've got just the best weather. You can go to Napa, you can go to Tahoe. It's just the best. So we're lucky to be selling in the most beautiful city in the world, and we know why everyone wants to live here.
Yeah,
Janet, historically, are the best cheerleaders and ambassadors for the city.
Yeah,
we're definitely selling San Francisco.
Yes.
Not to put a damper on things, but statistically, San Francisco home values have doubled every 10 years, and that has not changed.
I think there's something going on here that should be addressed as well. COVID created a lot of instability with people, and we're seeing it now today with our children and with our friends and different segments of our life, as you know. So what housing does, it creates stability. And I'll go back to my point. If you can land on a home and have stability and feel safe and feel comfortable and be with your family, there's no dollar amount that can buy that anymore. And that's why our housing market is going to maintain its stability and be so strong and actually continue to appreciate. And I think COVID drove that, and it drove it big into our contemporary culture. I really do. Why would you ever want to rent today and feel vulnerable? You don't. Yeah. You're going to own a home. You're going to settle down, and you're going to settle down.
And on that point, DJ, I want to add that we believe we've conquered COVID, but we're hearing about BA.2.
Exactly.
Anybody who is buying real estate right now is cognizant that this is the new normal, that we're going to have periods of time where we're going to be spending a lot of time indoors. It's going to look very different from the last time because we know more, but there will be times where we're not as free to move about the cabin as we are right now.
Yeah.
Or just the idea of, right? The idea of going back into that. Right.
I think people really enjoy being in their homes, right? We see a lot of home renovation. We see these home offices. We see people cleaning up, painting. You see the construction going on in the city. It's amazing. I mean, really almost taking more pride in their homes. I feel that, and I'm sure you all do as well.
Try and get a general contractor to return your phone call.
Janet, within that, in our conversation, we're talking about retail value and sales value. But I bet as you climb down your given street, somebody who paid $4 million may effectively have $6 to $7 million in their home.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a whole nother economic platform out there that people have to look at as well.
Let me go to another audience question. In this current market where availability might be challenging, people are getting innovative and broadening their search in creative ways. Take tiny homes, for example. Is there any interest there for the luxury buyer?
You mean
anybody want to downsize and live in these, small, deciding that they don't need as much stuff, but they want something, maybe not tiny homes, but they're downsizing. They've gotten rid of some stuff and they want to declutter their lives.
I think I can, take a stab of that because we mentioned it before. If you are a luxury buyer, you may be living in several places. And if you have several places, then it may be okay to downsize your footprint in San Francisco. But a luxury buyer in a primary home is likely not going to go from 4,000 square feet to 800 square feet.
No, I agree.
But we do see a lot of that in our market. It's not, in fact, some of our bigger homes have sat on the market longer. People are like, I don't want an 8,000 or a 10,000 square foot home anymore. I want 4,000 of really efficient space. And I want that open space outside. I want more land. I'm willing to sacrifice space inside my house to have more land.
Barbara, do you want to say something?
Well, I was just going to say the market is so different. You're talking about downsizing to 4,000 square feet.
Right.
I mean, in San Francisco, we do have homes that are 10,000 square feet. We do have some 12,000, maybe a couple 8,000. But, really 4,000 square foot home is a large home in San Francisco. Yeah. And we do see our luxury buyers who are selling larger homes, maybe a 5,000 square foot home. And we not too long ago had one that just sold the larger home and then moved to a condominium with an elevator and 3,000 square feet, and they're perfectly happy there. So we do see people downsizing, but we don't see the luxury buyers downsizing to 600 square feet.
Yeah. You want to have one of those tiny homes.
But first-time buyers are buying 600 square feet, and they're all paying way over 1,200, 1,300, 1,400 a square foot for that space.
Yeah. The next question is a crystal ball question. It sort of harkens back to what I was talking about earlier. What do you see the market? Where do you see the market going? And we see this inflation in prices and the constant great investment that the price is continuing to rise, particularly in the Bay Area and San Francisco in particular. Is there a cap on how much people will pay? Will we hit that ceiling where prices just cannot rise anymore? And please, anybody.
I'm extremely bullish on San Francisco and Silicon Valley for the latter part of this decade. First of all, San Francisco, compared to other international cities, is quite undervalued. Our luxury market is selling in the $3,000 to $4,000 square foot. New York is $6,000 to $8,000. Monaco is $15,000 a square foot. Hong Kong was up to $20,000. So we're quite undervalued as far as an international city. Plus, what's going on in our technology world. Technology has always driven our economy and therefore our real estate. And Peter Diamanda is one of the leading forecasters of tech, wrote a very interesting article in the last decade called The Convergence of 8 Technologies, where he's talking about how in the past, in different decades, one technology was driving the economy or innovation, and therefore the economy and real estate. But now we have 8 technologies converging with artificial intelligence to create what he's saying is going to be even more exponential growth as far as innovation. And therefore, that means our real estate market, I see a big boom in the second part of this decade.
That's going to be the quote of the day that Joel Goodrich says that our San Francisco real estate is undervalued, just undervalued.
I don't disagree.
Share that,
Janet, I don't
with
disagree.
your friends in Montana.
So Joel, it's interesting. So
But I hear what you're saying.
My high end in the East Bay is 14. My high end in the East Bay is 1,400 per foot. High end. I'm a bargain over
Yes.
Take it in the take it in the context
Piedmont
of
is definitely
construction
undervalued.
costs.
It's very
We've
undervalued.
had 17 trades in San Francisco over 3,500 a square foot.
Okay.
Yay.
Hang on to that 1,400, Greg. Just hang on to that.
I'll add to
We'll
this.
call you, DJ.
Okay, give me a call.
And you know, Greg, you're right. I'll repeat what I said. We're an international city. It's the most beautiful city in the world. Everyone wants to live here and they'll pay to move here. That's it.
Yeah.
We have it all here. So I wouldn't be surprised if the prices keep rising.
I agree.
Well, they have to. Well, if it costs $1,000 a square foot to build something at minimum right now, and the cost of land is close to that, then in my opinion, anything that you're buying in San Francisco below 1,500 a square foot right now is a steal. And we are seeing prices on the North End in the $2,000 a square foot range. And that's actually where the market is by pure math. Development is down. Developers are not building right now. They don't have projects that make a lot of sense. Buyers are putting a big premium on turnkey properties, and turnkey properties, if you were to start over today again, the cost of it is over $2,000 a square foot to create it. So add to that we've had the most robust wealth creation in the stock market over the last couple of years. There's a lot of cash that's working into the real estate market from every end.
Exactly.
Yes, and also remember, there's no place to build in San Francisco. We have a small, we're like an island. It's not like developers can come in and build, thousands of houses. It's all built. So it's what we are.
Yes. Yeah. And it's not just San Francisco, it's the whole Bay Area. You really can't do anything in Marin. You hardly can do anything in the East Bay. You have, preservation, you have fire zones, etc. And on top of, and you are, and the larger markets are competing with REITs, with actually really big money behind real estate that is snapping up the lower end of the market as rentals. Your mom and pop building that used to be owned by a single person is now owned by a conglomerate. They're buying it up, fixing them up, and they're betting on real estate. Huge corporations are betting on real estate nationwide. Not just I don't see how this is going to work itself out. I think the prices are going to keep climbing. Maybe not year to year, but overall, yes.
Well, in San Francisco here, we're not quite an island, but are surrounded on 3 sides by water. So we are constrained and always will be by our geography. But as Barbara has said so eloquently a number of times, and all of you, it is the most fabulous city in the world. And I know that we all believe that. And really kudos to you for not only selling homes and beautiful luxury real estate, but for selling our city at a time when I think we need more people to be cheerleaders. And so it's just been such a pleasure to have this much talent and charisma and wisdom. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate it, enjoyed our conversation. And I know our audience members did as well. So you can see a recording of this, I am told, on our website at both the Nob Hill Gazette and the San Francisco Examiner. So if anybody missed any part of it, you can see it in full there. And I know we'll have an edited copy in a number of places as well, including our YouTube channel. So it is Friday afternoon officially. And I just want to thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for being wonderful supporters of our city. And I wish you all great selling and a wonderful weekend. And thank you so very much. Look forward to
Thank you for the
next year.
invitation. We appreciate it. Okay.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Clint. Hi, Clint.
Bye, Clint. Hi, Clint.
Bye.